I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 48. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's podcast. Today's topic is called Lazy Choices. I'm going to share with you a story from my former life, but something I think back to all the time, and I always try to check myself on, and I really encourage and push my clients to make sure they check themselves on as well. When I was in the dental world, which is, like I said, my former life, I was a part of lecturing circuits, and I was always involved very heavily with learning and study groups and all this stuff. Well, there was a doctor who lectured consistently that I loved listening to. His name was Mike Miyazaki. Mike Miyazaki. He was a fantastic entrepreneur. He was the president of a company. He founded another company. He was the president of a university, dental school at one point. And he had a private practice, and he was paid to go speak all over the world. So this was a busy dude and super smart. Really, really interesting guy to listen to in lectures. So I loved every time I had a chance to see him speak, I was down. I wanted to go see him speak. There was one lecture, there was about 30 people in the room, which was small for him. And he was lecturing on this particular school of thought called, it's a neuromuscular school of thought when it comes to occlusion and how teeth fit together and la la la. We don't need to go into it. And there is another school of thought when dealing with this exact same thing for patients called CR. Okay. Well, most doctors are CR doctors, and that's just the way they've been trained. And that's just what they do. That's what they know. Neuromuscular, and I don't have an opinion on what's better. That's not what this is about. But neuromuscular is more technical, more data driven. So anyway, he was giving a lecture on neuromuscular dentistry. And this whole room of doctors were CR doctors, and they're listening to him, but it's almost like it's a different language. It's a different approach. It's a different everything. It's not what these guys do sitting in the room. And so they're observing and they're listening, and they all have a lot of respect for him. Mike Miyazaki is used to getting his butt kissed by everybody. And this room of doctors they all love him. They want time with him and all of that. But they were really silent as he was lecturing, and his lecture was so incredible. Just crazy, awesome case studies and data and great pictures. And so everybody's really quiet. And at the end, he's like, okay, so what questions can I answer? And everybody was just kind of sitting there. And I looked around the room, and these guys sitting in the audience were uncomfortable. And I realized, oh my gosh, they don't know what to make of this. They are CR doctors. That is what they've been trained in. And this guy's coming in basically saying neuromuscular is the better way to go. It's a smarter way to go. It's the right thing to do for your patients and for yourself and da-da-da. And they don't do that. They aren't trained in that. They could get training in that, but they aren't trained in that. And I was just watching how uncomfortable everybody was. And Mike Miyazaki said, no, what's the pushback? You guys aren't asking questions. What's going on? And still everybody was kind of quiet. They didn't want to push up against Mike Miyazaki. And at some point he kind of summed it up, and he said, if you're going to tell me no, you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and explain to me why. And then we can have a conversation about it. But that's the only way I want to hear no. I don't want to hear no, and just because it's just not what I do. That's not good enough. It's not good enough for yourself. It's not good enough for your patients. And that just stuck with me. And so from there, I was thinking for myself, where in my own life am I saying no because it's just what I know? Why would I not be willing to see that a different way of doing something is better than, or could be better than the way I'm currently doing it? And so I really started doing that for myself in every area. So for business, right? As I'm building my business and as I'm working with clients who are doing great with building theirs, there are things that you just do. It's just like part of what you do inside of your firm that it goes unchecked. And so if someone were to push on you on it and just say, okay, so why do you do it that way? If your answer back is, well, it's just what we've always done, it's not good enough. That's a lazy choice. So this podcast is really about, where are you making lazy choices? And this isn't to say that you're a ridiculous human for making lazy choices. That's kind of part of being human. There's a lot of things that go on default that kind of go unquestioned, that it's our job and our responsibility to wake up and question it. And maybe we stay doing the exact same thing we've always done, but at least we know why. The answer isn't always because it's always what we've done. That's not the answer. It's not good enough. So I really challenge you to think about in your practice, what ideas, when it comes to business and working on your firm, what ideas do you turn your nose up at or turn your nose up to? What comes to mind when I ask that? And then also, what ideas do you dismiss without really thinking it through? You just dismiss it. Because often, the reason I'm asking that specifically is because sometimes we dismiss things because it's inconvenient to look at. It might mean we need to change a whole bunch of things. Yeah, just what do you tend to dismiss, or what do you turn your nose up at in terms of ideas? And I just want you to look around at some of the things you do, how you operate, how your team operates, and evaluate why you're doing it that way. And if the answer that really comes up first is like, well, that's just the way we do it, it's not good enough. That is a lazy answer, and it's a lazy choice. So my encouragement to you is, I'm not telling you to switch away from the things that you're doing, but what might happen is when you start to look into the reasons why you're doing, like, do you like your reasons for why you're doing it the way you're doing it? You may just decide, oh, actually, this way's better. I just haven't taken the time to really dig into this. I haven't taken the time to evaluate why I'm doing what I'm doing. Taking a step back and evaluating your reasons for why you're doing something. And as long as you like your reasons, once you uncover them, then you're good to go. It doesn't matter. There's like no perfect way to do anything. So if the way you're doing it is you want to do it that way because of X, Y, and Z, like you've identified the reasons and you like those reasons, keep on keeping on. If you look into the way you've been doing something and you determine that actually it might be better to switch, you know what you need to do, right? Or if you're not going to switch, at least say like, well, that route I think would be better for us, but right now we're staying right here and we plan to move over, or going that route later, right? Just being very conscious instead of just falling into things and allowing things to happen by default, just because it's kind of what you've always done. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to think about because we have a lot of different influence around us, right? Me too. I have people I've looked up to, but no one's perfect. And I've kind of, if you try to model something in your business after what you see someone else do because it's so great, and then really quickly you're like, wait a minute, it is good. I'm so glad I tried that, but also there's a better way. This happened with the framework that I was taught. I wasn't taught by EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System, or Strategic Coach. I've never been taught by those organizations. I do not want to confuse any of that. But the consulting company I worked for had used both of those organizations, plus had their own content and framework too. And really what I was taught was this really cool, unique blend of the approach from Strategic Coach versus EOS. But as I went out, I got trained on that, went out, led these strategic planning sessions, and what I noticed was there were holes in it. It was like when you do this all day, every day, I was in 14 different offices a month, flying across the country, constant, like back and forth. And when you do 14 of these a month, really, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take very many months to realize where there are holes or where the framework could be improved. And that was a beautiful thing because for a while I was just doing what I was taught, doing what you were taught. You just do what you're supposed to do. But then at some point it's like, you know what? This is not working. Like there are pieces of this that every time I come back to the office, no one has implemented. People are still confused about. The buy-in isn't there. And that is a little bit of the facilitation, but if I had a better framework to facilitate from, we would not be here. This would be a different result. And so when I left the consulting company, I did a lot of hard work to figure out what are the holes that exist in this and what needs to be improved and what, all of it, really using my brain to become to create originality and to create a useful piece of the framework that used to just kind of exist. It was kind of the way everybody had always done it, but it doesn't mean it was working. So, it took me a while to get there, but this is something I did when I left the consulting firm, was like, okay, why am I doing it the way I'm doing? Like, what is the point of this? And I would think, okay, it's so that the client can get this certain result. Well, how else can I get them that certain result that's actually more straightforward and provides more motivation and more buy-in, and maybe it's easier, right? Like, just scratch what we learned. I'm just trying to get to this result. What's a better way to do it? Is there a better way to do it? And through a lot of work, of course, like, you use your brain, you come up with really good solutions. You figure out how to make it better. And that was my version of like not being lazy, finally not being lazy about my choice to engage clients in a very specific way, to facilitate the framework in that way. I finally woke up to say, okay, I know I've been taught to do it this way, but it's not really up to par. It's not really working at the level that it should be working. But it took me a while. I was just doing what I was supposed to do. I was doing the path I was put on. So anywhere that you can take a look at, why are you doing what you're doing? And the first place to look is where you're either not getting the results you want inside your firm, or you're not sure of the results you're getting inside your firm. And if there's an area that comes to mind when I say that, something really specific for you that kind of pops in your mind, I would start there. I would really look at what your approach is and evaluate why your approach is that way, and decide to not be lazy anymore with that choice. Decide to figure out, is that the best way? Do I like my reasons for doing what I'm doing here and continuing to do what I'm doing here? And if the answer is yes, keep on keeping on. If the answer is no, okay, then now you've got to find an alternate solution. And that is a beautiful thing, because you're waking up and you are having an awareness and exercising an awareness around this, and you're not just allowing it to go on default anymore. Okay, everyone, I hope that's helpful. I hope that you find a place or two in your firm where you can really ask these questions, evaluate why, figure out what ideas you might be dismissing and just being on default inside of your firm, and then figure out what ideas you might be turning your nose up to that you hear from others that maybe they're right? Like, maybe it's worth a look, but not just falling into something, really looking at why and choosing consciously the direction that you're going to go and why you're going to go that direction, and really making sure that you like your reasons for it. That matters. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you here next Tuesday. Hi guys, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, you probably understand that growth requires results, not just staying active. If you want to learn how to build your days around getting results, I'll show you how in this zero fluff class that I teach. Go to velocitywork.com/results for registration information. I cannot wait to see you there. If you want to hang out with us on social, come on over to Instagram. Our handle is velocity.work. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/meetvelocitywork. Cheers, my friends, to real growth and a great life. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.